wasn't protected by guards, but by awe, by fear. Now it's through that door.
But what if it's locked?
Why should it be locked? See? It's open.
You were staying in Luxor and you were going to come to the Valley of Kings. Some English-speaking guides as I've been walking about, and quite a vast chamber. Tutankhamun was 500 Egyptian. Maybe they're carving more. Or the most powerful of the Egyptian queens.
Very nice, Hatshepsut. The light, very, very nice.
Let's go check out some tombs. So I'm just exploring some of the outer edges of the Valley of the Kings. It's blisteringly hot, even though, as I keep saying, it's winter here in Egypt. I do think this is probably the best time of the year to come, rather than in the peak of summer, when I imagine it must be unbearable here. Lots of tombs scattered about. The majority of them aren't open to the public. I can understand why they're not open, because some of them need renovation, so they'll open some, shut some, and then reopen them. Some don't look very tourist friendly. They don't even have the full-blown entrances as such. So what that sign's saying is that it's an undecorated tomb. It doesn't actually have a pharaoh's name written in sort of Latin numerals, so don't actually know who that pharaoh would be. KV21, so along with this one, the same again. No pharaoh's name. So the main ticket price does give you full entry into the whole area. But I find it just staggering, the height of the outer rim of this valley. And you can see such detailed sedimentary layers here that just, like, they just kind of can crumble, but it's like all the rock has just compressed it in. But it is that kind of sedentary rock that you would just expect to see fossils in, like. And I've been trying to find a fossil, see if there's any like plant material, or it's a kind of shale type where you would expect to see leaves and stuff. And I guess in prehistoric times, as we know, most of the Sahara and the desert and all that kind of stuff was once quite tropical rainforest. But there's lots of birds perching up on the rocks here. But it looks like it'd be an insane place to do a bit of abseiling and rock climbing. One thing Egypt is getting better at would be making these places accessible and big tourist attraction, but it's still a amazes me that for such a big tourist attraction, there's bits of it that are still quite dangerous, really. Like just down here we've got an edge and the drop-off's quite far, enough to definitely be breaking legs, but a lot of places you'd see like a guide rail or something, but not quite there yet with the safety side of things. But we're going to head up here and see if this is one of the tombs that we've paid to go have a look at. But before we do that, we'll just go have a look in. This is one of the closed tombs. This looks like quite a big one, or a big entrance anyway. So you can see hieroglyphs on the wall here behind like a bit of a glass screen, but it looks like some of the glass is missing, hence why it's probably one of the closed ones. In fact, I don't even think that goes in very far. It looks like it goes in about 10-15 metres. Hieroglyphs on both sides, and it looks like rock face. So I think most of the big ones and the good ones are open. And that's probably why they have a limited number open, rather than overwhelming people with some of the smaller, slightly more insignificant ones. This is the one we're going to be going in from the entrance all the way down through the different chambers, right down to the burial chamber. So first impressions, quite vivid, good colour work. Wow, look at this. So we're now down into the burial chamber. Granite sarcophagus. Quite a vast chamber. I don't think you meant to touch anything, but I wonder what's in here. imagine the first people in here when there was like mummified bodies there, and it just would have been bloody scary. They wouldn't have had lights, they would have had flame, and yeah, that would have been scary. The further you get down in these tombs, it seems the warmer it gets, but I'm impressed by the condition they're all still in, and I can see there's been repair work to some bits and pieces of it, but for the most part it looks like pretty well preserved. Definitely the further down you get, the better it seems to be preserved. Right, so let's talk some pricing if you were to come here you were staying in Luxor and you were going to come to the Valley of Kings. So from when you get to the edge of the river, 100 Egyptian pounds to cross the river seems pretty standard. From Luxor West Bank, where you get off the riverboat that takes you across, I negotiated 100 in the tuk-tuk, gave them 150, so but basically $3 American to get up here. Then entrance was $750, an extra 2 Ramses tombs was an extra $180. Tutankhamun was 500 Egyptian pounds, and then you've got other ones that are 1800 if you wanted to do some of the more expensive ones, but I've heard from people that it's not actually that worth it. Just the fact that it costs more doesn't actually make it far more significant. Right, so once you get here, then walking in, if you need a bottle of water, he started at, believe it or not, 150. I said not interested, I've already got water. It then went 100, then went 75, and then he offered it for 50, and I said, well, at 50 I'll take it. So basically $1 American. Once I got in, they were offering me a guide. One of the official people were offering me a guide. That started at 60 American. He asked where I'm from. I said Australia. So then he started offering it in Australian dollars. It then went 50 Australian dollars. Then went 45 Australian dollars. I said I wasn't interested, and I genuinely wasn't actually interested. I wanted to explore myself and get a bit off the beaten track. But in the end, his final offer was $35 Australian, which I still declined because I genuinely didn't want a tour guide. But just a bit of a heads up, if you wanted a guide, you could play a little bit hard to get yourself a better deal. But at the same time, if the price sounds right and you're happy to pay that, then by all means pay whatever you wish. You'd always end up tipping a bit anyway, so you'd always have to add that on. The little electric golf buggy that brings you up is 30 Egyptian pounds, which is pretty cheap, but it does only take you about 300-400 meters, maybe 500 meters, so it's up to you if you wanted to get a few extra steps in. And that's a breakdown of the cost. So the cheapest 2 additional ones, so you get the 3 tombs included in the original ticket. But if you wanted to see 2 extra ones, you could only pay 180 more and get the 2 extra Ramses, the 4th and the 6th, I think, tombs, and that would only cost you 180 Egyptian pounds more. So that's a breakdown of the costs from the Valley of the Kings. So I'm about to enter Ramses the 5th and the 6th tomb. Now this is one of the ones that was an extra 180 Egyptian pounds to get into. Let's check it out. So then, cool. Shukran. So it seems like a big, wide tomb, this one. Very well lit compared to the other ones. Very patchy, where I can see that bits have been broken away. But what remains has incredible colour, almost like a gold pigment has been used in some of them. Lots of bright yellow. Whether it's all original paintwork, not entirely sure. Lots of graffiti. The ceiling is one of the more spectacular bits of this. The bright yellows and the vivid colours. Amazing. What I noticed on this one is there's lots of smaller hieroglyphics. So in terms of the amount of data there is or data on the walls here, there's definitely a lot of information here. I don't know, it's kind of weird being the only one in here. So I was reading outside that they found the original granite encasing, but it was smashed to bits by the time they found it, so they've recreated or put it all back together as much as they could. And then the original top piece that would have been there was also broken, but the headpiece, that is a replica of the one in the British Museum, because the British Museum has the original one for whatever reason. I'm going to take a moment to absorb this information. So on the ridge line here you can see lots of lights, and at night they actually shine up onto the mountain, and although this is the opposite side of the mountain than what you can see from in town, it still makes such a vivid sight to be up on the rooftop of any of these hotels and looking in the direction of the Valley of the Kings, or the mountains around there, Valley of the Queens, which you can see from the other side. But I can see quite vividly from the side that I stay on, which is the west side, the west bank, and the Egyptians, they always saw that the west was associated with the setting sun, so with death, and hence why all these tombs are on the west side, and then the east side, which is where the sun rises, is where they associate that with life and birth, and so that side celebrates life, west side celebrates death. So in this tomb, it's Ramses III. Got the glass panelled bits to prevent you touching it. Not sure why they've got that on this one and not some of the other ones. Great colour again, great detail, lots of what appears to be like a gold pigment. Lots of black in this one as well, black paint on the dogs on the walls, which you haven't really seen too much in the other tombs. Quite a significant drop there. It's got to be 8 meters, I would say, in depth. I believe when they change course like the one did just back there, I believe it is because they were digging through and coming in and connecting with another tomb, so then they had to change directions and keep going down. There's large sections screened off for whatever reason, I'm not sure. Which may be restoration work, or maybe they're carving more. So it still goes further down, and it's saying here that the project is hosted by University of Berlin, and the reopening site with the help of state-of-the-art methods and techniques, this cultural heritage site will be made accessible again for tourists in its entirety in its former splendour. Get out of here because it is bloody hot. So to give you an idea of how much time to spend here, I've spent about 3.5 hours, but I've done it quite slow, walked every different avenue, off the beaten track a little bit where I can, and 3.5 hours. I reckon you could actually knock this out comfortably in 2 hours if you come in went to all the tombs that you're looking for, and you'd be able to knock it out in about 2 hours. So that's the kind of time frame you're looking at if you were planning a visit here. To give you an idea, at the coffee shop there, so you could get like an orange juice was about a mango juice there was about 200, but to put that into perspective, if you were getting that down in town, it'd be about 60, so potentially 4 times the price that you'd be paying if you were buying it from one of the fruit vendors in town there. Coming down to the exit, so we'll be following that through and then making our way back down to the West Bank. We're now walking up to the temple of Hatshepsut. Not hot chicken soup, Hatshepsut.
That's why even in front of the pyramids, we have the main sphinx there.
So from what I understand, Hatshepsut's mummy was in the Valley of the Queens and buried there, but this is the temple to her honour. These are the area out the front here that would have housed large gardens. So I've overheard some English speaking guides as I've been walking about, and they were saying that out the front here would have been massive gardens and even ponds down here. So I think it all got properly excavated in the 1920s and it's been restored from like a Polish Egyptian agreement or partnership. And you can see up here they're still digging stuff now. There's a gentleman up there putting stuff and rubble going down to the bottom down a chute. It's got sphinxes out the front. It's quite a lovely sight, really. In the evenings, I believe they have a light display that displays onto it, which I've heard is quite nice. Not sure how that works because it shuts at 5 p.m. in the evening. So I don't know who watches it because it's now 4 p.m. or a bit after. And it's obviously not dark yet, so yeah, I'm not sure what the light show is about. The front's lined with all these statues of the Queen, so she's apparently one of the most powerful of the Egyptian queens, Egyptian pharaoh queens.
Там в интернете спросите.
So judging by the large gaps where there's no stones. It must have been in quite a state of disrepair. In actual fact, it looks like most of that top bit there is actually part of the restoration rather than original blocks. So I'm saying there for tour guides not to explain this part, so I'm not entirely sure why that might be the case. So this is Hatshepsut temple that we've just been to. 440 Egyptian pounds to come in. Not a massive amount to see in there, if I'm honest. If you've come from the Valley of the Kings or you've done the Karnak temple in Luxor, there's sort of not a lot of bang for buck in this place compared to the others. Definitely worth a visit to have a look at. I mean, you can see most of what's good from the outside, if I'm honest. I saw it from the air balloon this morning as the air balloon was flying over, and I thought I've got to go check it out because it did look pretty spectacular from the air. But still under restoration. Like I said, the amount of restoration work compared to original in this place, I would say 40% original, rest of it restoration, which isn't always the best. Whereas a lot of the tombs and stuff we visited, a lot of Luxor temple, it's a lot more 80% original, like where the columns are, the amount that's substituted with the mortar versus the original limestone blocks. So just bear that in mind if you're tight on time. This might be one that you want to drop off the list. In saying that, you could be in and out pretty much in half hour, I'd say. So it wouldn't take long to add it onto your day if you wanted to. But if you're on a budget, you might want to consider doing the other ones like Karnak Temple, Valley of the Kings as the two main priorities. And without any shadow of a doubt, hot air balloon is definitely a highlight if you're visiting Luxor.
Going.